Jerrid, thanks, brother, for making some time today across the country and being on the show with me, man. I appreciate you.
I'm so excited for this conversation, and I'm a fan of yours, so this is an honor to be here.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. And I had the privilege of being on your show just last week, and we get to turn this around now, man. So it's on you now. But look, I got to know you in a very cool space, and the aura or the image, if I didn't know anything more about you, was that you're winning all the time, man. You had just written a book. You have this fantastic family. Your health is in order. Like, you look like everything you touch right now turns to gold and that you're winning at everything. But I know that's not the case, right?
Yeah, looks can be deceiving, right? Yeah, that's even kind of going back, and we'll just kind of just dive right in here. I was a TV weatherman. We're going to talk about that. I always a happy-go-lucky kind of a guy. I always wear my emotions on my face. I come off very happy, but that wasn't always the case for a lot of years. I think that my overrunning emotion for so many years was fear. I had some success in my life through a couple of careers. It was really a defense mechanism. Underneath the surface was a lot of fear, a ton of insecurity. And really the success that I found in my life in many aspects was really me just trying to stay away from the chaos. And nobody's had a more of a front row seat to this than with my wife. You can't tell on this recording, but I'm 6'6", so I'm just a hair above average. And my wife is 5'4", and I have the most supportive wife. We've been married for coming up on 18 years. And she just so many times, she would kind of just grab me by my collars looking up to me. And she's like, gosh, if I could take the darkness away, I wish I could take it away. But she knew that I couldn't. And in the last couple of years, I've been able to step into a new, I would say, realm, frequency, energy, different paradigm, a different mindset. And as I've done that, I've started to step into who I am. And beneath the surface, that peace and resilience has started to actually come through. And so what you see now is more representative of what's just below the surface in a lot of ways.
So let's talk about that, because, what did you have to go through to get to this point, right? Like, again, I said, people see you and they might think this guy's winning at everything, but that's not the case. Like, so much of our days as entrepreneurs, we lose or we have major setbacks, 1 step forward, 5 steps backwards. Talk to me about what this journey has been like for you and a lot of those setbacks and dark moments.
Yeah. Well, it goes all the way back to when I was a kid. My parents divorced when I was 8. My dad moved 3 states away. I saw him twice a year. I was raised in a trailer home in Southwest Minnesota. I had an older brother. He's 10 years older than me. He struggled with addiction and incarceration at a young age. I was kind of raised an only child. My mom was the youngest of 4. She grew up in an alcoholic family. She struggled fiercely with low self-esteem, anxiety, depression. I was parenting the parent. A lot of people listening to the show probably can relate to that in many ways, where you're kind of I was kind of the husband and father of the household in many respects. My most frequent memory as a kid, my mom always crying. She was always crying, always depressed. And so I was the one giving her pep talks at 8, 9, 10 years old, trying to, hey, mom, if you stop crying and you get up and go to work tomorrow, you're going to feel better. And it was very difficult. I'm not taking anything away from the difficulty of trying to raise a child by yourself. It was very difficult, but I was kind of the emotional janitor. There was a lot of emotional chaos in my home. You could never just kind of, relax. My brother was kind of adding a lot of chaos in his world that would funnel to my mom, and that would end up in my lap for me to kind of quote unquote clean up. And so because of that, I took on kind of this perfectionistic attitude. I was going to try to strive to stay above the chaos. There's one time I was actually doing a project, like on a Friday night. I was lamenting over this project. I was probably 5th grade. And I was just working and beating myself up over this project. And my mom said to me, Jerrid, it's good enough. And then I responded with, Mom, it might be good enough for you, but it's not good enough for me. And so I had this very perfectionistic type of controlling attitude, not really controlling with people, but with my circumstances. Because remember, the world is a scary, dark place. It's coming to get me. And if I don't stay above the curve, so to speak, it's going to hurry up and kind of swallow me in. And I took that into my college career. We've talked about this on previous podcasts. I actually played college basketball, and I'm not trying to sound coy, but I was an unrecruited trailer park kid from Southwest Minnesota. I was a walk-on at the University of North Dakota, and I ended up being a starter, co-captain on a full-ride scholarship by my senior year. Now, that's commended in a lot of respects. You know what I'm saying? Like grit, hard work. And it was, but if you look back, it was me, all me trying to just keep my head above water. It was me trying to keep the uncertainty of life away from me. I went into TV. I became very successful, had a very successful TV career, 12 years. And all of that kind of came crashing down post-COVID. I was probably going through a midlife crisis as well. But I kind of got to the end of me. You know what I mean? Like I was the epitome of a self-made man where it took me as far as I could take it, and I could not take it any further because of circumstances and, post-pandemic and probably a little bit of anxiety and depression myself. But I needed to look at life a different way. But looking back, that was kind of the mindset I had to get over, that it's not all up to me. And fear, most definitely, fear, lack, and scarcity by far were my overrunning mindset, emotions, and paradigms that I had to conquer.
We were joking a little bit beforehand, but I'd said, and I'll tell the audience this right now, if I had a nickel for every time I've had a weatherman on this show, I'd have a nickel. So this is the first time, but I don't know many people that, go from TV or specifically reporting on the weather and then transition over into being an entrepreneur, a thought leader, an author, a speaker who's nationally renowned and literally just scratching the surface. Like, talk to me about the fear that, and maybe the self-doubts or not knowing how this is all going to turn out when you make such a transition. What actually prompted it? Why did you leave a successful career for something that was unknown?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great question. Just to preface, I've actually left 2 10-year plus careers in my 6 years here on planet Earth. One was a 12-year career in TV. Why did I leave that? And it really goes back to I wasn't what I wanted at the time. That one really caught a lot of people off guard because when you're on TV, you're in front of a lot of people. You're in the public eye. Ironically, at that time, my stock prices were as high as they had ever been and going up. And my contract was coming to an end. And this is something that had been on my heart for a long time. My wife and I had spent many years talking about this. But as my career grew and got more, quote unquote, successful, it was actually pulling me a direction away from that which I wanted. At the end of the day, my wife and I are kind of small town Minnesota kids. We were starting to have children at the time. And there's no normal schedule in TV. If you want to kind of play in the big leagues, you're going to most definitely have to live in a big city. And the schedule on TV, by the way, there is no 9 to 5. There is no normal schedule. It's like death, early mornings, evenings, nights, weekends, holidays, or all of the above. And for me at that time, it just didn't make sense to do it anymore because it didn't align with what I wanted. Now, looking back, I'm like, I was 34, 5 years old at the time. That was a pretty gutsy move. I walked into unemployment at the time. Come to find out, my wife was pregnant with our 3rd child. That was unplanned, by the way. But even at that time, even 10, 12 years ago, I had enough confidence in myself. I knew I was going to make it work. That transitioned me into the financial world. I became a business developer and a marketer for a small independent, not even small, a boutique independent financial firm here in West Central Minnesota, and made a career out of that for 10 years, ultimately leaving that 10 years a year ago. Now, that transition was much more, I don't want to say strategic, there was more at stake. I got 4 kids. I'm 46.
More consequential. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have as much time out ahead of me to kind of if this doesn't work, there's a little less space in front of me to make it work, so to speak.
Right.
And that one was much more aligned. 2 years prior to that, I had decided on January the 1st, 2022, I talk about this in the first chapter of my book. I said, I'm not going to live in defense anymore. There was a specific moment in time. It was on New Year's Day, just down the road from where I'm sitting right now. I was on a walk with my wife, and I was so sick and tired of running away. Because that, you have fight or flight. People are fight, flight, or freeze. I was flight. My success was done out of me fleeing, trying to, again, stay above the water, so to speak. And I was tired. I was tired of doing that. And I was watching very specific people, especially post-COVID. If you remember the conversation, if you ever scrolled Instagram, Facebook, watched the news, listened to the radio, everybody was talking about COVID. Everybody was fighting about politics. Everybody was negative. But there was 1% of people that were speaking a different language. They were talking about growth, expansion, purpose, business. And I remember saying to my wife on the spot, whatever the crap they're talking about, whatever they're doing, however they think, I got to figure that out. And so fast forward about 2 years after that moment, I ended up walking away from my job, committing to writing a book, stepping into who I am. I've always kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit. I knew it was in me, and I needed to get to a point where I believed it, and then had the guts to then step into it, invest in it, double down on it, and like you say, believe it. And so that's how I really made the transition out of my second career. This one, much more aligned. I wasn't running away from anything. It was me stepping into who I am and doubling down on that.
So Jerrid, if for our listeners, there's a lot of people that are entrepreneurs and some people that are maybe at a transition point also in terms of a crossroads. Do I stick with this career where I'm not necessarily feeling fulfilled? Do I go out on my own and start something? And then of course, all the fear and the doubts and I might be too old for trying to reinvent myself, conversations, like all that stuff that you just talked about. Is there a formula or a blueprint that you would give someone who's listening to this that feels that they're at that same crossroads and that you would tell them just jump, or maybe do this and this?
It's a great conversation. I think that there's 3 distinct zones. I'll use the air quotes here, zones you can be in. And what you do, I think, depends on your personality. There's people that are different, have different risk tolerances. Where are you financially? What's your personality? If you're more entrepreneurial, you're way more apt to jump into the deep than somebody who's maybe a little more conservative, both just personality and fiscally, But the 3 zones are kind of like, it's on my mind. I just don't see myself working. I don't see myself retiring at this W-2 job. There's some discontentment there. That's kind of where I was even before I got to like my dream job, Care 11 in Minneapolis, which was my home city, my home state. Even before then, there was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to spend my whole life doing this. I would love to speak because I really like to do that. That was me talking. Those are kind of the conversations happen inside of me. And then there's this crossroad where it's like your discontentment is going up and your quality of life is starting to go down. Now you're starting to kind of get into this like danger zone, so to speak. That's a phenomenal place where you need to start having some very, very deep self-reflective questions on who it is you want to become. Not necessarily what you want to do, but who do you want to become? And that's a very, very, I wouldn't say tight, but that is a very distinct season. Because if you hang on after that, now you kind of hit the point of diminishing returns. Now it becomes soul sucking. Nobody wants to be in soul sucking mode, where now you are going to your job or whatever it is that you're doing, and you're almost getting visceral reactions in a negative tone. Like now, again, no disrespect my last employer, but honestly, like the last 6-7 months I was there, I would get a visceral reaction like going there because it was not that the job was bad. It was just out of alignment. Because I was growing. I was putting so much time, effort, energy, and money into me expanding into me. And as I grew, the disalignment between me and my current job started to go up. And so I want what advice would I have? Double down on yourself. Have these conversations, dip your toe in, try things, read books, expand, grow, change mindsets, because what will happen is that you will start to evolve into the person you're supposed to be. And you still might be in that current job. And as you grow and expand, it will become very clear when it is time to jump based on your particular personality trait. What I don't want people to do is not do anything and then time just clicks off the clock. That's the name of my platform, is Life Undeferred. I live life deferred for so many years. Don't do that. A lot of people say like, well, I'm just so loyal to my job. And I'm like, great. Being loyal is great. That's a phenomenal trait. Be loyal. But don't sacrifice loyalty for you spending 10 years not growing and expanding who you are. While you're working there, yes, work there, work hard and be loyal. Yes. But also take the time to expand and grow into your own soul, because your soul is crying out for that.
For sure. That's a beautiful answer. And I hope everyone listening got something there out of that if you are at that point. Because Jerrid's the epitome of this. Jerrid, along the way, this is just part of life. There will be the unexpected. The curveballs, sometimes having to do with the transition itself, sometimes something totally different. But life just has this way of just reminding you that you are, as David Meltzer says, you're either humbled or you're about to be, right? And I know you had something happen in the last couple of years, I believe it was, with your identity being stolen. And I heard you share this story, and this was a pretty dark moment, but you kind of released at one point, and I thought it was a beautiful lesson for any entrepreneur or human being. So I wanted you to share that with us.
I quit my job, my W-2 job, in July of 2024. So welcome to the jungle, baby. Like I'm the first time, like if I don't go get it, I don't eat type of thing, And so here I was 25 years into my working world doing that for the first time with 4 kids and a 1-income family. So the pressure was on, and honestly, that was probably the best place for me. So I committed to writing a book, wrote said book 1 month later, and then spent the fall of 2024 getting ready for the book launch, November the 19th. If you look at all my social media back in fall of 2024, it was just November the 19th, baby, countdown, 60 days. And of course, I did that intentionally to just, keep building the excitement. November 19th comes. I did a local in-person book signing here in my local town. I did a 2-hour live jam summit live stream with some of my favorite people that endorsed my book. Our mutual friend Craig Siegel was on that live stream. People that endorsed my book, I had him on. It was so much fun. And then we threw a huge party here in my local town. It was a dress up, red carpet event, photographer, DJ, smoke machine. I had books for everybody. And it was this incredible mass of momentum I had launching that book. That is exactly what I wanted for that launch, right? 2 weeks to the day later, I wake up and I have a Facebook hack on my phone. Ding, 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 alert, alert, alert. By 10 a.m., they had my ID. They had my driver's license. And then by 4 p.m. that day, they were in my bank accounts, stealing money. And after the smoke cleared, I spent 5 hours on the phone. Me and my wife spent 5 hours on the phone until 11 o'clock at night trying to lock my identity, trying to secure bank accounts, cancel credit cards. Like all of my social medias except for LinkedIn were gone. Like I was completely locked out. I had nothing. I did not sleep that night. I was dry heaving throughout the night because of the pressure and the stress. I'm not trying to over dramatize this. It was the worst day of my life because it's terrifying. If you ever had your identity stolen, you're watching it happen, your phone is dinging, and you can't stop it. And you're getting stolen from. And so just consider the context. I'm 46, years old, and I'm like, this is my life. And it's like, it's gone. Did not sleep that night. And 5 o'clock the next morning, I'm in my living room, which is where I'm sitting right now. And I text our mutual friend, Craig Siegel on the East Coast. I said, Craig, if you got 30 seconds, call me. And by golly, my phone rings from Manhattan. And I said, hey, what's going on? And he says, how are you? And I said, not good. And then he said this, and this is an honest to God true story. He goes, Jerrid, this is going to be the best thing that ever happens to you. And I did pause and I was like, you, what? And he said, we should be flattered by our challenges. He goes, we will laugh about this someday. It won't be tomorrow, probably next week, but soon in the future, we will have a drink over this and we will laugh and we will be so thankful that this happened. He goes, don't react, don't panic. And then he said this, what an opportunity. What an opportunity.
Which is not what you wanted to hear in that moment.
No, because remember, I live in fear scarcity, right? I want to fly. Right. Like I want to, I'm not really a fighter, but already I was like, I'm going to go on my wife's Facebook and we're going to find these people and I'm going to fight, panic, react. He goes, don't react. He goes, and I remember all this. I'm sitting right here. The faster you let go of those social media accounts, the faster they'll come back. He goes, what an honor and opportunity this happened to you. Here's the thing. For the first time, I didn't react. Something big like that came into my movie. I just sat. And I just let it happen. I sat in the uncomfortable. I didn't fight. Wow. I just believed. And here's the thing I want you and everybody to hear. I didn't believe it. Confession. I didn't believe it. But I believed Craig. He said it with such conviction. I was like, this guy's legit. He's either effing crazy or he's correct. And so I did nothing. The truth is I didn't do nothing. I did do something. I just got on the phone. I realized a lot of things. I needed to build an audience that can't be taken from me. I've got to redo my website. I've got to get an email list that no matter what happens, I can't take that away. And then I just started going to my phone. I realized how big of a crutch social media was for me to build my business. So I didn't have social media. So I just got on my phone. I started calling business owners and people that I knew in the local area. I said, hey, the turn of the year is coming. I could come in and do a session. I would love to teach your people on this, yada, yada. And all of a sudden I started getting business. And then just like Craig said, got my social medias back in January, had the biggest month of my life financially and impact-wise from a business perspective. Top in February, top that in March. In April, I had no income on the bank. In April, when I started the year, had 2x my biggest month in April. And I'm like, I'll be damned, it works. And I'm so honored, guys. Like when we have massive, pardon my language, shit shows that show up in our life, be honored, be flattered that those were released into your movie because they are not wastes. They are golden tickets for you to grow and expand. I am so glad, and I can say that with 100% honesty, I'm so glad that happened because now I get to go on stage and I get to go on this badass podcast. And I get to tell people the same thing. When those challenges show up, that is your golden ticket. Stop fighting it. Stop trying to pray it away. Stop trying to get out of it. Just sit in it. Don't react. And just let that lesson marinate in your soul because there's something in there that needs correction so you can go to the next level. And so I don't even recognize myself, Arjun, from 6 months ago. I didn't recognize myself from 3 months ago. And so as Craig said, I am so thankful that happened. And do you have the audacity? I challenge my audiences. Do you have the audacity to look at life that way? And if you have the audacity to look at life that way, you will see these challenges bubble up. And while they may be very difficult and tragic, I've lost family members in the last 6 months. I lost my mother. I recently lost my brother. And while I'm heartbroken at the loss, part of me, my soul says, you know what? Let's frickin' go. Because I know this is yet another ticket to the next level.
Well, I believe the expression on this show, brother, is let's fucking go. Yeah, you maybe you needed permission to be able to say that. It's a beautiful story and the opposite of how you, through Craig's guidance and then your own intuition and believing him and trusting yourself to kind of let go and surrender to this, let go of these things and allow it to come back. The opposite is to feel the pressure, sometimes insurmountable pressure. Talk to me about pressure because I was getting in there as you were talking about this, that pressure is privilege. And I've always lived my life to see it that way, like an opportunity. How great to be in this position. But talk to me about how we need to view pressure. And when we feel that weight and actually turn it around into the opportunity that you actually capitalized on.
Yeah. Well, you're speaking my love language because I'm obviously passionate about this. And the reason I'm passionate about it is because I didn't live my life like this for the first 43 years. Remember, I spent my life avoiding anything uncomfortable. I played my life so safe financially. By the way, I'll share this story because you might get a kick out of this. The first book I read after my wife and I got married back in 2007 was a Dave Ramsey book. Now, I love Dave Ramsey, don't get me wrong, but like he is the epitome of safety and conservative play. Can we agree on what I'm talking about?
100%.
And I don't mean, this is my analogy, and I get some funny looks when I use that analogy. When I read that book, that was like crack cocaine to a drug addict. When I read that book, because I was like, remember, what was my heart? Where was my heart stance? Fear, lack, scarcity, just play as safe as we can because the world's weird, right? I'm just waiting for the next shit bomb to go off. So it's like, I need to play it as safe as I can. And so that's the way I played it for 15 years of the first 15 years of my marriage, right? And so I avoided pressure. Now, my mindset has changed. Reinvention. And the way I look at life has completely changed. Now, I love this. We talked about this on my show. I love going into the future and creating that vision for who I want to become in a year. And so if I have that vision, if I have crystal clear vividness on who I want to become, and I encourage everybody on this show to do that, make sure you're going into the future in some capacity and have that crystal clear vision of who you want to become, then I play as that guy right now. And if I'm playing as that guy right now, I'm making decisions and I'm putting myself in situations that are going to make me uncomfortable and I should feel pressure. I know that you believe in this as well, but if a week goes by and I haven't been put in a position where there's a little bit of pressure, I ain't growing. And
right.
that's a problem for people that believe in this idea of growth, expansion, and double down on personal development. So to your point, I mean, I do a lot of speaking, as do you. There's not a single stage that I don't feel a little pressure. A lot of people say, like, do you get nervous? You hear that?
Sure.
Do you get nervous? Me, I mean, I may be not nervous, but I can feel the levity of the stage. I don't care if there's 10 people or 100 or 1,000. There's pressure. There's people that are giving their time.
It's a responsibility.
It's a massive responsibility. This podcast is another great example. I rise to the occasion here. This is pressure. It's so good. It's so good. And again, most entrepreneurs know that, but never let go of an opportunity to step in a place that causes you to kind of just pause for a moment. That is just a phenomenal place to be. You've got young kids as I do, and we are always encouraging them, because kids will naturally, most of the kids, maybe at least mine anyway, they'll naturally kind of stray away from that opportunity to knock on the door of a stranger. If we're going to go knock on somebody's house and talk, you're gonna give your order at the restaurant. That's kind of a rule we try to do, and you know what I mean, like. And it's like, I'm afraid. I'm like, but that's good. Doesn't it feel good when you take that role in that play and you rise to the occasion? That feel good? Well, of course it does. So we need to take that into our lives as adults and business owners. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And again, when I wake up and I look at my calendar, I'm like, today I got a podcast interview and I've got to interview this guy and I got to make this call. And there's a little bit of pressure there. I'm right where I should be. Right.
Absolutely.
In that zone.
Absolutely. So look, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this, particularly in real estate and mortgage, right? And marketers and creatives, but a lot of people in those two former spaces, they are seeing this current market and climate right now as a very challenging one. It's shifting. There's a lot of noise on the exterior, right? The world's coming to an end. There's, another geopolitical escalation that just started today. Like, there's lots of chaos. How do we continue to press ahead, in your opinion, and see the light, focus on the opportunities, and block that stuff out? Because you faced plenty of exterior noise through your transitions professionally, even some of the stuff that we'll get into here in a little bit, regarding family and challenges there, and how that's going to affect you. But how would you guide people that maybe have that question of uncertainty of what everything going on around them and how they need to keep pressing ahead?
Yeah. I kind of think of like our thoughts and the space that we think almost as like a vertical scale. And like all that political noise, I mean, we got a big taste of it 5 years ago during the pandemic. I mean, that conversation was way down here. I mean, like that was a low frequency conversation that, we all had to participate in to some extent. But do you have, again, the ability, the audacity to actually raise your level of consciousness, thought, mindset? And what I teach the people I coach is that when you do that, you kind of separate yourself from all of that stuff, right? I recently interviewed Vincent Infante on my show, and the first question I hit him with, I said, "What does it mean to be a self-master?" Because you talk about self-mastery, and I was not expecting this answer. He said, "Self-mastery is the full understanding of the things that we cannot control." I was like, "That's a killer answer, right?" Because those people are not concerned about the things that they can't control. Does it affect them? 100%. Is there strategies we need to deploy in certain situations? 1,000%. But where I have my mental headspace, I'm not living in that, right? So while there are external circumstances that are affecting me and certainly the people that are in your field of expertise, we need to understand what those are, but let's not live there. Let's not put our obviously our happiness in that, but we're going to believe in something higher. Let me give you an example. We just recently had an election, several months ago.
Yeah.
And I don't care what side you were rooting for, but I'll tell you, old Jerrid would have been freaked out on election day back in 2024. I'd have been terrified of what's going to happen. And while I've got my convictions and I've got my beliefs, I made up my mind before that day started. I don't care who wins. 2025 is going to be the best year of my life. I've already made up my mind. I've already elevated where my headspace is. So when that fear that my life is a result or a breadcrumb of the chaos of this world, that thought can't even hold a breath of air up there. So I would challenge your listeners, think of it as a vertical scale. Can we elevate our thoughts to when those fears come in and the news hits, another geopolitical thing comes out? We're going to understand that, but we're not going to let that give us a snuff up here where I think and I believe the best economy, the most important economy is the economy of this right here, the headspace and health of my mind and my heart. That is the number one thing. And by the way, when I started going through my own reinvention, I had to shut things off. I had certain people that I had feeding into me, and I had to immediately shut them off because if it doesn't help elevate my mindset, I really don't want to know. We all have these friends. I've got them at least. You see them and they're like, hey, did you hear? Hey, did you see? And right away, I don't really want to. I really don't. I'm really not interested. Well, you need to know all these things. And I'm like, well, maybe I need to know.
No, I don't.
I don't need to know everything that's happening. The people who are the most, honestly, the people that are most unhappy, they're the ones trying to figure everything out all the time. And it's like, I need to know what I need to know so I can expand, grow, help serve other people, expand my business, expand my purpose. I want to know that. But if it's outside of that, I'm gonna keep it at arm's length, so to speak. So again, think of your mode of thinking as a vertical scale, and that will help kind of stay above that noise, so to speak.
That was incredibly powerful. It might already be my favorite takeaway, just in terms of how your approach or the decision you made prior to election day. Like, look, regardless of the outcome, I'm deciding that this next year is going to be the best year of my life. I'm not attaching my undeveloped outcomes and like writing the future based on something that's happening that literally at the end of the day, there should be some separation. You touched on something there. I want to expand on this because so much of our country, so much of our, and a lot of it here in this audience, people listening, are so swept up in what goes on and letting it have an impact on them. Like anxiety rates are up as a result of people watching the news so closely during COVID, right? And how can you blame them for having that kind of anxiety? There was literally a death tracker on the news, like a stock index, like a literal market index, like counting debt. How could you not be affected by that if that's what you were drawn into? So for people that are being affected, and the world is noisy now, there's no doubt. And people will say, well, I can't function today because of what's going on. I can't do this today because of what's going on. Your answer to that is, Jerrid?
Turn it off. Turn it off. When I launched my book, I had people come out of the woodwork that were still living in that negativity from COVID 4 or 5 years ago at the time. And they're like, oh man, I'm just so depressed. And I would hear that. I'm sure everybody on this call has heard that. Like people, they hear a news story and they can't get out of bed. Guys, you've got your heartstrings in the wrong spot. And what I said to these people with all due respect, I said, shut it off. I did. I don't even know if you agree with me politically. Shut it off. I don't care what you want. Shut it off. Go outside. Go for a walk, eat healthy food, spend time with your family, give money away. I mean, like that, you see that meme floating around. I don't know who keeps saying it on Instagram, but I see it reposted all the time. The new flex is healthy relationships, time with family, peace, 8 hours of sleep at night,
it is
water. It's true. It's true. And why are those things so important? Because in my opinion, that keeps this thing fog free. Yes. I mean, yes, there's health benefits to that, but it keeps you out of the garbage down here. So again, know what you need to know. There's a saying that says, I only want to know what I need to know. Like some people they over-explain stuff. I don't want to say my wife, but sometimes she's kind of over-explaining stuff. And all I need to know is what time do I pick up the kids? I don't need to know, what happened last week. Just tell me what I need to know. That's a fault on me, not her. That'll probably start a conversation, I'm sure, later after that we record this podcast. But you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. Count on that.
I need to know. And let that be something that propels me. So again, take inventory. What are you listening to? Do you feel better after you listen to it? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel like more empowered? I'm not suggesting there's not difficult news to digest, but then turn that. You have the ability to assign value to that. I love what David Meltzer, a mutual friend of ours, said. He talked about relativity. We have the power to choose to decide the meaning to the things that happen in our life, especially the hard things. Again, do you have the audacity to do that? And go back to what Craig told me when I got my identity stolen. What an opportunity. What an opportunity. You could say like, oh, the market is doing this, the stock market's doing this, the housing market is doing this. What an opportunity. What an opportunity to serve. what an opportunity to look at this job, this market in a different way, in a different light. What am I not seeing? You won't see those opportunities. You're swimming down here, though. So that's why, yet again, it's so important we keep elevated above those things, and those opportunities will flare up. There's always opportunity, even if it's just for personal growth. But there's always something new.
Yep.
If you choose to assign that value to it, and that's what's most important.
Beautiful. And look, in our professional lives, when we're doing this and running these courses that you're talking about, right, and these routes of seeing opportunity and just reframing things, we all have personal lives as well. And these two tend to intersect, sometimes not at the most convenient of times, right? Like one will throw into the other lane and the opposite, and you have to deal with it. You mentioned on the show already, single income, everything's on Jerrid's shoulders. 4 children, head of the household, taking all the risk, reinventing himself, not playing it safe by societal standards, not playing it safe by old Jerrid standards, pre-Jerrid, right? And Jerrid 1.0, I should say. Talk to me about how challenges in your family have helped define you better as an entrepreneur and as not just a leader of household, but as a leader in general. Because I see you as that. You are a leader.
I appreciate that. The universe, the world, God, creator, whatever you call it, he will give you challenges in 2 ways. External circumstances. That's why when the challenging external circumstances come up, your mind should go, what an opportunity. What do I need to see here? Where do I need to correct? But it's also going to come in people, relationships. I always challenge audiences. I say, think of that person that just annoys you to no end, right? That person that just has the ability to get under your skin and push your buttons faster than anybody else. And usually audiences, laugh at that. Because I say, don't look at the person next to you. I mean, because it's usually associations and people's coworkers and bosses are there, But I said, I'll say, how many of you have children? Raise your hand. How many of you have multiple children? No, raise your hand. I go, we love our children, right? Like we all love our children. Can we hang our hat that we love all of our children? But my goodness, aren't they all different? Oh, yeah. But I go, you got that one kid. You got that one. You got that one. Usually there's like a slow rumble of laughter. You got that one kid that just uses more emotional horsepower than all the other kids combined. And then I click the next slide and I show a picture of my second daughter, Everly. And this picture is her with this cowboy hat, just giving sass to the camera. And there's usually a laugh. I'm ashamed to say this. My Everly is a 10, almost 11. For the first 6 years of her life, I loved her. But I did not like her. Turns out she has ADHD, which, by the way, will be her superpower. She's going to change the world someday, 100%. She's either going to be changing the world or in prison. We're not exactly sure which one yet. But she has got
change the world.
Yeah, she will. But she has the type of her brain is functioning in such a way where she has a hard time regulating emotion, and that gets under my skin. You know why? Because I was used to living with somebody for a year who could not regulate emotion. Yeah,
triggering for you. Yeah.
Yes, right. And so I looked at her as a problem that needed to get fixed. You don't fix people, guys. They don't need fixing. You don't fix your kids. They need to be revealed. The true essence of who they are needs to come out. You are in their life so they can understand who they are, and we want that to come out. That's what she needs, right? That's what she needs from me. She needs a dad that can show her who she is and help her discover it. That goes for your kids. That goes for your spouse. That goes for all the people in your life. Gosh, if we could all be that light that would actually turn on the lights inside of other people, how amazing would this world be? But as I went through my own transformation, where I looked at the world differently, and I talk about a concept called life is school in my book. Life is school. In school, you will have tests. Don't be offended. If you do not pass these tests will continue to come. Usually what happens, the more times that this test needs to be re-administered, it gets harder and harder and harder, right? And so something snapped to me one day where I was like, is it possible? And by the way, confession, Everly was not planned. Now, I love her to tears. I wouldn't want it any differently, but I'll tell you, back then, she was not planned. The other kids weren't necessarily planned, but they weren't not planned, if that makes any sense. Is it possible that God, the universe, the world, gave me a daughter that strikes she strikes the deepest chord of insecurity in me that perhaps reminds me and triggers me of a mother I had 30 years ago. Do you think that that's coincidence? Or is it possible that that young girl is in my life so she can provide a mirror for me to see where I need the greatest connection? I choose to believe the latter, obviously. And when I look at her, is she still difficult to parent? Yes, at times. Do I love her to tears? Yes, always have, right? But now when those triggers come up, I have to be very quick to remind me this is a mirror. This isn't for me to react to. There's something inside of me that's triggering. And God doesn't give us, creator, whatever name you want to call he, she, or it. These things don't happen to break us. They are here to create breakthrough. If you are living in a place of fear, scarcity, and lack, you will see people in your life that trigger you, and it will feel like punishment. Life will feel like a continual day after day series of punishing events. And I'm here to tell you that those events, those people are here to perfect you. And so my mentality, I wish I could say I've been like this all the time. I haven't. It's been because of a shift in how I look at the world and look at the people and my external circumstances. And like Craig said, when I lost my identity, what an honor it is to have my little Everly in my family. Does she drive me bananas? Yes. But what an honor and a privilege, because she gets to expose the lack in me, and I get an opportunity to decide to change that. And then who wins? I win. I get to expand and grow. And then the people around me win. It's this beautiful cycle of energy. If you have the audacity to look at people with that lens, and that's where people need to start viewing their life and the people in their life through.
You've used that word so perfectly. It's woven in throughout this talk here, which has been a blast, of audacity and choosing. You know, you've used these keywords. And guys, as you're listening here, this is the embodiment of what LFG energy is. This is why I'm talking with Jerrid. This is why he's on the show right now.
That's why we rock.
It's right. It's exactly why we clicked the moment we met, which was not that long ago. I'm not even talking a month here, but the frameworks, the approaches, the choice to see opportunity and challenges and reframe it. And, you know, he's probably a card carrying member of the I Get To Club. I don't have to do something. I get to do this, right? It's a privilege to do this. It's a privilege to be in this position of pressure. That's the LFG mantra and takeaway for everyone here as we kind of bring this thing home. And utilize those frameworks, regardless of where you're at in your life, professionally, on the age spectrum, what challenges you're going through, and there's plenty of them. And Jerrid is not talking to you assuming that you have no challenges in your life. He's assuming you have loads, just like he's faced and overcome, and he barely scratched the surface on it. Jerrid, I ask these questions towards the end of every talk I do with my friends here on the show, and that is, you know, you're living a very full and purposeful life. And I can see it. There's so much meaning in it. And you reveal a lot of that in your book and in your mission and what you're teaching and coaching people on, which I'm going to be part of that journey with you and joining myself. I want to ask you, I mentioned at an event that I had here back in February of this year that, you know, when people pass away and your kids, you've got 4 children, which we can presume you are going to have a lot of grandchildren and probably even more great-grandchildren, right? Just using the multiplier effect. When you passed away and all of these kids and great-grandkids are at your funeral, if there's one word you want your life to mean in their eyes of what Jerrid meant or how I would describe Jerrid, what would that word be?
The word that's been on my heart lately, and I'm considering even getting a personalized flight with this word on it, is relentless.
I love it.
Relentless, like relentless pursuit of more, not because I need more. I don't need more. I'm full. I'm whole. But like that relentless pursuit of more, so I can have more connection with my creator and I can help fellow man and grow and thrive. And what a phenomenal, beautiful gift we have with this gift of life, right?
I think it's an appropriate one for a boy that had to grow up a little too early at the age of 8 and be in a support role of the caretaker emotionally. And also how you're raising your kids and, you know, to become these productive members of society, how you live your life, you know, from a very high perch. I commend you for that. And look, that word is very appropriate for you. As soon as you said it, I was like, yep, that fits. The other thing, Jerrid, as our final question, what does it, and you might have a big answer for this one, I can tell, but what does LFG energy mean to you? No right or wrong answer, but what does it mean to you?
You know what? I love the concept. I do. And this is not, by the way, for you people watching this, this is not manufactured bromance that we have going on. Like as soon as we met, there was some connection here in a very heterosexual way.
Yes.
I would go with Relentless again. I would go with Relentless again, because it is kind of the epitome of like, let's go. Like you're just getting started. There was a reel recently by Pat David. I love this, and I shared it with my community. You probably saw it, but he's like, you must always have this idea of just getting started. You have the biggest month of your life. Your attitude should be, I'm just getting started. You have a monster, you have a monster month or a monster milestone. I'm just getting started. You finally buy your dream car, and people are patting you on the back. Dude, I even scratched the surface. I'm just getting started. And so I end a lot of emails now with my friends with just getting started, ... And so when I think of you and what you stand for, it's like, we're just getting started. Me and you are almost exactly the same age. I'm sure you believe this. We're almost 47. I feel like I haven't even got started yet. Like I'm not even to the start line yet. And if I am, we're just getting started. And so I commend you for this community. I love your attitude, your mantra, but that relentless pursuit of like just getting started, because there's always another level, to me epitomizes what you stand for. So I'm proud of you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And listen, this was a lot of fun. This will be the first of many things that we do together.
Yep.
But I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the show. Our listeners will get a multitude of ways to be able to connect with you and check out your book as well. In fact, guys, if you listen to this episode, leave us a review on this episode with some of your takeaways or what you enjoyed about it most, and send us a screenshot of that. I will send you one of Jerrid's books, because I'm going to be purchasing a lot from him to not only support him, but because I want to share his knowledge and wisdom and his life lessons with people. And you can be one of them. So send us a screenshot of your review of this episode. I will personally send you one of his books. And Jerrid, again, thank you, brother. And I'm behind you in your mission, man, and cannot wait to see what this next year has in store for you.
Well, likewise. And just remember, we're just getting started.
That's right. That's right. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you, man.
See you, man.